That's a lot of mixing and matching. And what I've kind of noticed about all those is that the one line that's always stood out as being consistently good is JVR, Frederick, Coyle.
I was gonna say, yes,
Yeah,
that's the
goals
one.
scored. Yeah, that's the one that's really stood out. We're like, all right, keep that together. The rest is still like, we'll see.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 185, presented by our good friends over at FanDuel and Factor Meals. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Connor, I got to be honest, today I'm feeling pretty intimidating. Because for those who listen via audio, you're not really going to get what I'm saying here. But for those who watch on YouTube or Twitter, or watch just the videos, there's a new background. Look at that. Subscribe in big letters. You freaking bet. I'm like Tommy DeVito's age. Like, you better fucking subscribe. Like, you gotta.
From Salem, Mass, too, by the way. Shout out Salem.
Which is incredible. I saw Phil Stacy, editor of the Salem News, tweeted that out. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know he was from Salem, Mass. So, but yeah, we have a new background. Let us know what you think of it. I like it. There's a lot going on, but it's good. I like it so far.
It's good to switch things up, Evan, right?
It is. We've switched up things a lot in the last couple months, so why the hell not keep switching things up? But yeah, the Tommy DeVito thing is hilarious. I'm getting a kick out of that. That's I gotta admit, I don't watch a ton of football when the Patriots aren't playing, but on Monday night I was watching the Titans. I was watching both games. I was going back and forth. And then once the Dolphins kind of, opened it up, I think it was like 27-13 in the fourth, I was like, screw it. I'm not watching the rest of this game. And then I get the push notification like an hour later. I'm like, they came back. So joke's on me. I didn't stick around long enough. But anyways, it's a hockey podcast. Who gives a shit about football? Speaking of things that are going to be changing up, we talked about this a little bit on Bruins beat, but it is true. Pavel Zacha will be out for Wednesday's game against New Jersey. Jesper Boquist has been recalled. Charlie McAvoy will also be out. That's the second straight game that he will be watching from the ninth floor, upper body. But again, the Bruins say it's not a head injury, so I guess take them at their word for it. I hope it's not a head injury. This is those are two big losses, though, especially in kind of a big game like this against New Jersey on Wednesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though New Jersey, I think right now is on the outside looking in at a playoff spot, they've kind of had injuries. The defense has been pretty so far this year. But I think you look at their rush offense is still very, very deadly. They can do a lot of damage there. And I think it's something where you look at the Bruins and their defense and where their shortcomings have been. It's been on defending the rush and stopping odd man rushes and stuff like that. And so, yeah, without McAvoy out there, that's a huge loss. You're going to test guys like Ian Mitchell, Mason Lohrei, and see how they hold up. But then up front, Pavel Zacha has been a guy that not only has he been really solid offensively, on pace for 60 points, he's one of your most trusted PK guys out there as well. So this is going to be a game where I think you're going to see a lot of Morgan Geekie step up. He played over 17 minutes in the last game against Arizona, and he'll probably be in line for more reps moving forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is one of those games, the way it's shaping out, right? You're missing your best defenseman. You're missing your highest offensive ceiling center who kills penalties as well in Pavel Zacha. We talked a lot this year in talking about the younger players about how the biggest thing with this team is winning. You want to win. That's their goal. It's crazy, Connor. You do want to win hockey games, and it can be important. As my neighbors fall all over themselves in the stairwell. I don't know if you can hear them. They just freaking making tons of noise.
I thought you're gonna have the Kool-Aid Man run through the wall.
Yeah,
like a nice jump scare for us.
I would have rather that. At least I think the Kool-Aid Man could give out some fiery Bruins takes. So I would be all for the Kool-Aid Man jumping in.
But he wouldn't pay for the damage though. He'd be like, call your insurance, and then he would just jump out the window.
Then Barry Feinstein would pop out of the ground
yes.
I think you need to call me, so it would be just a perfect medley of
like
people.
The Avengers. Yeah,
it would be. Yeah, Kool-Aid Man, Barry Feinstein, Lee Stempniak, just everyone
Tommy
at once.
DeVito's agent.
Yes, everybody at once. It would be just a perfect grouping of people. Where was I? With the way the Bruins are, with your top guys out, I wouldn't mind seeing them play the kids in this game. Not like, again, I'm not saying, don't put Geeky in the top six. I'm not saying, if it's a close game at the end, shortening the bench. What I'm saying, though, is, like, this is, as you mentioned, a chance to see what you got. Like, the Devils are a good team. I know the record says otherwise. I know they've struggled this year. That's a good team. Like, primetime game. See what Lowry's got, right? Like, I want to, Geeky is an interesting one because he's still trying to find his footing in this lineup. But I wouldn't mind seeing Patra in higher elevated minutes. So for me, like, I would love for them to approach just this game like that. I know they won't. And again, we'll see how the game goes. Because again, if Lowry and Patra and those guys are playing well, then that's the other thing. An interesting thing is Ian Mitchell, because Ian Mitchell's kind of physical. And he does like to throw the body around, and he is aggressive. Sometimes I watch his game, and I see a little Connor Clifton in him. And I'm curious, because we talked about this on Bruins Beat about the defense being more physical, needing to make life more difficult on opponents. He has that DNA a little bit, and I'm curious if he finds some sort of role on this team that's higher than the seventh defenseman.
Yeah, he's a really interesting case. He had a really good game actually against Arizona. I think he was on the ice for 4 5-on-5 goals for the Bruins. Really steady there. We kind of know what his strengths are, but again, what's his role? Is he a 70? Can he, possibly jump up in the lineup? And is he fighting for maybe the minutes that a guy like Shattenkirk has or Forbort or what have you? So, yeah, it's as much as it's not ideal that you don't have both Charlie McAvoy and Derek Forbort out there, especially against a pretty high-octane offensive team like New Jersey. It's a great opportunity to see not just like the younger guys or Geeky in a new role, but a guy like Mitchell and what exactly you have. Because all you can consider, I think after a pretty slow start, he's been pretty solid whenever you kind of draw him into the lineup.
Yeah, I've been fine with Ian Mitchell. I think that was an interesting addition in that Taylor Hall trade where it's like, who is this guy? And he's ended up working out pretty well. Yeah, I agree. I would like to see them use some new players not new players, but guys in elevated roles and things like that. I know it's a big game, but I wouldn't mind seeing that on Wednesday night. We're gonna get into some statistics. That's the big episode. This is like math heavy, stats heavy. I'm transporting everybody back to AP stats in high school. This is what this show is gonna be.
I was going to say more like Oppenheimer of that, not like AP6. Everyone that hears AP6 is going to change to another podcast. But
true. Okay, Oppenheimer. We're going to go full Oppenheimer mode right here. We're going to build a nuke. We're going to build a full-blown nuke, and we are going to drop the nuclear knowledge on you. That's what this is going to be.
Yes. That's how the movie went as well.
It is. It's exactly how it went. They were giving off. I think I remember Oppenheimer was giving off expected goals for. He was big on goals saved above expected. That was a big one. He was really for.
That's the thing is when they had the security clearance hearings, is that he was advocating for Corsi as a way to measure puck possession, and Robert Downey Jr. was like, "You fucking idiot! It's all about grit, baby." And that's how they cut that part. I don't know why Nolan. I know it's a long movie, so I can see why they didn't want to add the hockey semantics into it. But just so you know,
and I think
and Josh, hockey movie.
It was a big hockey. I think it might be better than Miracle. And like Josh Peck was saying like Fenwick is underrated and people should be talking about Fenwick more. That's where I disagreed. I was like, Josh, why don't you go be Josh Nichols with Drake and Josh? Maybe this isn't for you, So I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, before we get to all the statistics, a quick word from our friends over at FanDuel.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use and you can bet on everything from spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And frankly, that's the best part about FanDuel, that you can bet on anything. You want to bet on how many wins the Patriots are going to have this year? Be my guest. Maybe how many shutouts Jeremy Swayman's going to have this season? Go for it. You can really do it all. So bet now on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
So these statistics, these were mined by you. This was all you. I had nothing. I didn't do anything for this. This is completely you. You're doing a story for the Globe on some stats that define the Bruins and some digging under the surface, like when it snows and you got to shovel the snow off and get underneath. So I will let you take point on this. I will let you, and I will react. But these are your stats. I don't want to read them like that I came up with these. I mean, I'm going to tweet all these out like right when we finish recording.
Of course.
But face to face, I'm going to just let you take it.
Yeah. So I guess starting off with one that I think is fairly obvious in terms of looking at the success of this team and why exactly they're 18-5-3. It's the goalies, as expected. And I think when you look at just how impactful they are, I think people look at, the baseline stats, goal, GAA, save percentage, high danger save percentage. But when you look at goals saved above average, I think that's a good way to quantify just how much a goalie in particular is bailing out your team. And Swayman and Ullmark combined this year, 14.3 goals saved above average, which when you look at this team and their lack of firepower, their, lapses defensively, at least early on this year, don't have a really large margin for error. And 14.3 goals can go a long way towards impacting an 18-5-3 record into, something closer to even 500, if that's the case. So, I mean, really not surprising in terms of how good they are, but really just underscoring how impressive they've been this season.
This is why I don't follow the logic of, trade Ullmark. Like, this is, again, you need these goals saved. You need, like, you're not getting as high octane of an offense as you had last season. So you need to rely on your goaltending. So, I mean, it's a pretty high number, 14.3. Like, I go back to, like, that just sort of solidifies the argument of do not trade the goalies. We've had this conversation before, so I don't want to just go back into it. But, like, I want to see these two play in the playoffs. Like, I want to see them try it. If it goes down and it sucks and they're out the first round with it, at least you tried it. But again, with numbers like that and with how good they've both been, I thought at the beginning of the year, we talked about this, I think on the last Poke the Bear or one last week, I thought Ullmark's fall off would be more stark and a little bit more, what's the word? Just, bigger.
More severe.
And it hasn't been. Yeah, more severe.
Yeah.
That's exactly regression. But it hasn't been. And again, I think Swayman's been better, but it hasn't been by much, and they're still both elite. So I think you're cooking with gasoline on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I think, out of that 14.3, like Swayman's clearly been better. I think he's 10.0 goals saved above average. Ullmark's 4.3. But I think you even look at this recent stretch where Swayman was out, where he was sick, and Ullmark's kind of got stood up and helped him kind of steady the team when you could have had Swayman out for an extended stretch. Like, even that Arizona game, that game could have gone haywire in a hurry based on just how, I think, frantic and effective Arizona's offense has been this year. So just another situation there where Ullmark stood out when needed. So, yeah, goalies have been good, but one stat that has not really been as great, defense in front of the Bruins. And I think when you look at the state of this team, we knew that the strengths were going to be in net. We knew there's going to be a lot of question marks up front on offense of how they can get sustainable, consistent scoring. But even with the defense in front of them and the personnel they have out there that's pretty damn good, hasn't really been the case so far this year. Again, they're third in the league in goals against per game. Pretty good. A lot of that, I think, is a result of Ullmark and Swayman. But
it
Bruins
is
right now. Bruins right now, 15th in the league in 5-on-5 high danger scoring chances against per 60 minutes. So again, you've got two goalies that are bailing you out, but it's not like they're also having really kind of quiet nights either. There's a lot of, whether it's odd man rushes, a lot of not protecting the net front. The defense in front of them really hasn't made things easier for them along the way, which is amplifying how good they've been, but also showing that there's a lot more room for improvement there, the guys in front of them in the D zone.
Yeah, the Bruins aren't Quinnipiac. The Quinnipiac, the goalies get like 14 shots a game, and it's like, oh, this guy's got like a .72 goals against average. It's like, well, it's because he's got like no shots on him, and it's good defense. I agree, and that's one of those things. A lot of people are like, oh, the eye test is more important than statistics and this and that. And it's like, well, the perfect move is you have both. This is one where I think it passes both. I think the stats support what people see, and I think what we've seen through the first 2.5 months of the season is there have been many games where Swayman and Ullmark have won them the game and stolen them the game. And it's not necessarily, diving across post to post to make a glove save. It's a guy in front of the net with a clear grade A chance. And we've seen a lot more of those than in past years. And I'm curious if it's more so, again, the personnel hasn't changed much. Is it, something with the coaching? Because again, it's Chris Kelly's in charge of the D, correct? Or is it Sacco? I'm blanking.
I believe it's Kelly.
Yes. So instead of having Gruden there, you have Kelly. Or is it something to do with no Bergeron, no Krejci? Is that what it is? I mean, again, Coyle's been a good, solid defensive center. Zacha's responsible in his own zone. So I'm curious what it is, if it's a lack of just toughness in front of the net. We've talked about this quite a bit. But, I mean, again, that's not an encouraging number. That's pretty discouraging to see. Because, again, you're middle of the pack in terms of that. I mean, again, it goes back to, if the goaltending ever regresses even a little bit, I think this team falls from 1 to, 3 in the Atlantic potentially. So, yeah. Not great.
Not great. We will look at one positive, and it's a guy that I think we all expected was going to be really good. David Pastrnak, on pace for 50 goals. But I think kind of what we've talked about, what makes him such an elite player offensively, is that he's not just a one-trick pony. He's not generating all of his chances off of just relying on the one-timer on the power play. He's passing the puck a lot more this year. He's on pace for 72 assists, 123 points, both which would be career highs. But I even think you look at his offensive generation, he's really diversifying how he's kind of generating his chances now. And out of his 16 goals, 14 have actually been wrist shots. They're not a lot of relying on the one-timer or the slap shot. It's only really been one goal he's had. It was against Buffalo on the road back in mid-November, where it was a one-timer from the left circle. The rest have been wrist shots of him kind of getting closer to the net and beating goalies that way. So, again, not a surprise that Pasternak's still stuffing the stat sheet, but I think when you look at how he's doing it, it shows you a guy that's so gifted offensively that he can kind of, based on the situation, based on the season, can kind of augment how he's generating those chances. Just further validates that he's a really special player out there.
I mean, his shot is just ridiculous. I that's where I go back to he doesn't need a lot of space. It's not just Again, Ovechkin scores a lot of different kinds of goals, but he always gets kind of, made fun of for just kind of standing there on the power play. Pastrnak's not that. You even saw against Arizona. I mean, they get him moving around so much on that power play. And so, yeah, I mean, again, it doesn't surprise me, but what does is sort of the setting up this year. That's one thing that I think has risen and he's been a lot better at this year than maybe in past years. So, yeah, that's a good one because I see the rest of some of these other stats, not so great. Not so great.
Yeah,
but before we get to the stats, something that is great, something that's real great, something that's quick and great is our friends over at Factor Meals.
This holiday season, you might be looking for nutritious, convenient meals to keep you energized on jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you fuel up fast for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. Too busy with holiday plans to cook, but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you'll need. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you need to do is heat and enjoy. This November, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. So head to factormeals.com/poke50 and use code POKE50, that's POKE 50, to get 50% off. That's code POKE50 at factormeals.com/poke50 to get 50% off.
So, continue on. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Factor Meals, I mean, gotta have them.
You have to. Absolutely.
I mean,
I understand, Evan. But yeah, going back to the negativity, I guess, we talked about this on Bruins Beat about the Bruins' lack of physicality, not delivering a lot of hits. And we kind of mentioned that you can view that as maybe, hits shouldn't be the ultimate barometer in terms of, how effective a team is playing. But I think when you look at offensive zone time, and the one thing the Bruins have been lacking is not adhering to just a really straight line, effective forechecking game. When you look at their even strength reps, just 40.7% of their even strength ice time has been in the offensive zone. That's not great. It's below the 50th percentile of all NHL teams. And I think it kind of signals that, one, Bruins are way too one and done in the offensive zone. Too many, chances off the rush, or not, just dumping the puck in and forcing turnovers and making things difficult for the opponent. So it kind of reinforces what we talked about earlier this week, Evan. And again, does this team need to be a physical juggernaut where they're just dropping the gloves and beating the shit out of everyone? No, I'm sure some Bruins fans would love that. But I think what you need to have more is that physicality that equates to a stronger forecheck, on defense, boxing guys out of grade A ice. Those little things that I think go a really long way, especially once you get to the playoffs.
They're too soft to play against right now, especially in the O-zone. I think it hits at what Montgomery said and kind of where they're trying to head. Like, they're just, all these numbers that we're going to get to kind of hit. I wonder if it hits at the point of, are they as good as their record is? Because there are a lot of underlying issues with this team that I do wonder, like, and this is a bigger picture conversation we can have, we'll probably have 100 times this year, of like, are they really number one in the NHL, number two in the NHL? It doesn't feel like it. I don't know. Like, we're coming off last year where it was, just a stacked lineup and they were just so ahead of everybody. So maybe it's the fatigue of that. But like, I look at some of these stats and some of the ones that are coming up where it's like, but maybe on the other side of it, it's like, oh, well, they're this good and they're having these issues. Maybe once they patch these things up, they're coming, the issues are coming now. It helps. It's going to help down the stretch. Maybe it could be that too. So both sides of the coin. That's what we do here.
Yes.
Both sides of the coin.
Absolutely. Very fair take there, Evan. And another one that is kind of, we've talked about before that I think a lot of Bruins fans are very cognizant of, struggles with dealing with empty net situations. The Bruins season ended last year because of a 6-on-5 goal by Brendan Montour, and it's carried over this year. 34-41 of ice time against an empty net this season. Bruins have given up 7 goals. It's not great. It's tops in the league. And again, I think you can look at quite a few things that if you don't fix, you can roll the punches now. You have like the tough game against Anaheim, tough game against Tampa where you lose those games. Bruins bounced back and beat Toronto after letting up a last-minute goal. But those are the situations that if you want to go deep in the playoffs and win a cup, there's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games like that where a team's got an empty net and you got to clear the puck and put out a lot of fires in the last minute. And you want to fix those now in November and December before they really bite you in the ass in April and May. So definitely something worth keeping tabs on.
Yeah, I think it also goes back to just being a little too easy to play against. Like, you got to a little harder in the defensive zone. I think it kind of comes back to that. We've seen it. I mean, God, Tampa, Toronto, like those are teams that you could face in the playoffs. And again, maybe it's not the worst thing. These problems are coming up now. We've talked about this, like, learn how to deal with the adversity as it comes to you, whereas they didn't really have that last year. But I mean, just watching it, I mean, that stat doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me they're number one in the league in empty net and goals against when the other team has an empty net.
Yes, without a doubt. And then looking at the forwards, one thing that has stuck out to me is whether it be injuries, the amount of turnover up front, the fact that you got so many younger guys in the lineup. Jim Montgomery put his forward group in a blender for most of this year. So far, you got 14 different line combinations that have logged at least 20 minutes of 5-on-5 ice time. So it's not like it's like a one game or it's, just a bunch of mixed lines that, end up having 5-6 minutes of ice time together, just the way that the charts kind of map out there. That's a lot of mixing and matching. And what I've kind of noticed about all those is that the one line that's always stood out as being consistently good is JVR, Frederick, Coyle.
I was going to say, yes, that's the one.
Scored. Yeah, that's the one that's really stood out. We're like, all right, keep that together. The rest is still like, we'll see.
They haven't found anything yet outside of that line that really has stuck. I mean, again, like, they looked like they might have had something with Lauko, Beecher, and Lucic. Obviously, that ship has sailed. But up, in the top 6, who does Patra fit with? Who does Zacha best fit with? Jake DeBrusk, we've yet to see him get activated. they're trying different things. You could also make the case that got to keep lines together longer to develop chemistry. Chemistry doesn't just happen overnight. I feel like a lot of times, a line gets put together, they have a great, first game, everybody's like, oh, they're terrific. And then you watch for the next couple games and it's like, oh, they clearly don't fit, but they had such a hot start that narrative gets out there. Whereas, vice versa, I think there are combos that could maybe work that haven't been together. So, that is sort of a product of the beginning of a season, especially for a team that lost its top 2 centers and key wings from last year in Hall and Bertuzzi. But at some point it does have to die down. At some point you do kind of have to find the trios that I think are going to work best.
Yes. And of course, again, it's more injury-related than anything, but Coyle, JVR, and Frederick are all going to be split up on Wednesday against New Jersey. But alas, roll the punches there.
Hey, at least the Bruins aren't moving to Virginia, so at least there's that. Did you see that?
That is true. I did see that. Yeah, my folks actually live in DC, right by Capitol Hill, so it's always clutch that you can just take a quick 5-minute Uber to get over to the Verizon Center or whatever the hell it's called. Not going to be as fun going up Northern Virginia for that. So we'll see how long it takes for them to build that stadium. Maybe they'll drag their feet a little bit there.
The Virginia Capitals. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on down there. I'm not tuned in. This isn't Capitals beat. But I was surprised. I was like, wow, Virginia. Oh my God. But who knows? We'll see. Hey, the Giants and the Jets play in New Jersey. So, we'll see. I've never been down there. You could attest to it better than I can. So
it's a great city. It's great visiting. I always love that it's a very easy. I like any stadium, especially that's right in downtown, easy to get around. You don't have to when the game was over, you have to plan out how you're getting back to wherever your home base is. When you go to an Islanders game, you're like, I'm stuck here. You either have to grab the last bus out, or Ottawa, which is in the middle of nowhere.
Did you see? Did you see the Ottawa thing? I think it was on Twitter. Someone said if every team was the distance Ottawa is from its state capital, the Senators were from their Ottawa state capital. It had the Bruins, I think, in the down by the South Shore. They had him far from Boston.
You be at fucking Sturbridge Village. You go to a Bees game and churn butter at Sturbridge Village afterwards.
Or go to the King Richard's Fair, in the fall. That'd be that'd be a hell of a way to open the season. Yeah, King Richard's Fair on a Saturday and then go to the Bruins after. With a turkey leg, fucking that's the dream.
Joust with the boys, smashing beers later. It's great.
Oh, incredible.
But no, going back to our parade of misery, Evan, as we continue to, I feel like we've had a few comments saying we've been overly positive. We're just slamming down this team's got some issues. So
yeah, there's
continuing
issues.
On,
we're touching all of them.
One that has stood out to me is, I think you look at 5-on-5 play defensively. Guys like Brendan Carlo and Derek Forbert have been really, really strong out of the gate. One pair that has not been, that I think Bruins fans for years has seen them been very productive, especially in the regular season. Charlie McAvoy and Matt Grzelcyk. Usually, what you're getting out of those two guys together, play off each other really well. This year, 144 minutes of 5-on-5 ice time together. Bruins have been outscored 5-3 with them out there on the ice. And when you look at the last 3 seasons, the Bruins have outscored teams 86-32 when they've been out on the ice together for 1,362 minutes together. So a pretty hefty sample size, I would say, Evan. So I don't know what exactly it's been the case this year, but a lot to be desired in terms of those two playing together for a group that for years the Bruins have relied on as being a really steady, effective two-way kind of pairing out there.
It's interesting. I do wonder, because the Bruins want their defense to activate more and be more aggressive. We've seen that with Montgomery and more offensive generation. I do wonder if there's a little something that changed with those two and how they play together, because in past years those two would go out there when the Bruins were down a goal, and they would typically spend a lot of time in the O-zone. And go sicko mode, exactly. Go BU Terrier mode, I guess. Although you're number 2 to BC this week, but you're right there. You're right there.
We're close.
You're right there. On the doorstep. But I am curious with this. There's a lot of things. Again, McAvoy's physical play, I think, has deteriorated after the hit to Ekman-Larsson. We've talked about that. Grzelcyk, I don't think, has looked as good as he has in past years this year. I know there's a lot of pressure on him, a lot of the trade rumors, speculation, all that stuff swirling around him. But I think it's sort of, again, I mentioned it, coaching, if that's changed, the pressure around Grzelcyk and just McAvoy's lack of physicality. I wonder if that's kind of the reason that pairing really hasn't taken off. Because again, I mean, they wanted Lowry up there. I mean, they tried it, and it just didn't really pan out. Also, Grzelcyk returned from injury, too, so I think that's another thing to keep in mind. So, I don't think it's quite yet I don't think, you should be screaming for Grzelcyk to be traded, but it is something to monitor because that's been a pretty, 86-32 in the last three
absurd
years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, maybe they're falling back to earth, but I like that D pairing. I would like it to them to find their game in these next couple months.
Absolutely. And Evan, we'll end on a positive note. I think when you look at the Bruins in their offseason and how much limited cap space they've had, all things considered, I think they've hit on quite a few guys, especially I think you look at James Van Riemsdyk and Dan Heinen. And Cap Friendly actually has a really helpful thing that calculates cost per point and which guys have the best value out there. JVR, sixth best value in the league in terms of cost per point at $62,500 per point. Seems like a lot of money.
He deserves a raise.
Yes. But I think when you look at what he's brought for his contract at 1 year, $1 million, and look at Heinen, who, as of our recording, we'll see what Toronto does tonight. But Heinen right now has the same amount of points as Tyler Bertuzzi. And no, he has more 5-on-5 points than Tyler Bertuzzi, 9-7. And he's making $4.725 million less on his deal. So pretty good value for the Bruins when you look at just how up against the cap they were. They're making the most with what they had and what they were able to sign this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a lot in the offseason. They kind of have to be the Moneyball Bruins. They were that. Once the Bertuzzi stuff, once that stuff sort of fell away. If only Bertuzzi had DeVito's agent, I think it would have been a much different offseason for Tyler Bertuzzi. But, I mean, again, once that was done, you had to make these value signings. Remember all the Van Riemsdyk and Geeky? What is this? It's like, well, they don't have any cap space. And
what do you want them to do?
What would you like them to do? And again, they went out, they made smart signings. I mean, Shattenkirk has had his moments of good and bad, but overall he's been fairly solid. Like, They've done what you want them to do. Do you remember who was number one in the value signings by any chance? Or like who was up there that was notable?
I'd have to look at it again. I feel like it's a few guys on Arizona. This is just standard contracts too. If you included like entry level, of course, guys like Bedard or Mason. Yeah. I think Mason McTavish is first. So I think there's a few just cast off guys on Arizona that are pretty high up there. I actually think Brendan Hagel, who's I think over a point per game, he's up there even though he just signed an extension, but I actually don't think that kicks in until next year, so makes his contract look even better. But it's been a bit of a mix there in terms of some guys that are getting paid more than like $1 million and a half, but their production is really spiked. But it's pretty good company to be in anyway if you're JVR.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's worked, he's fit, and I think that was one of our biggest questions in the offseason was like, what does he still have left? And it's clear that he's a fit and he works and he's found a home with Coyle and Frederick. So I think that's a good thing. So we'll end on a good note. So this is a story with the Boston Globe, correct? Will this be in tomorrow's paper, or I assume?
Yes, barring the Red Sox signing Placido Polanco, 49 years old, to a tryout contract.
Raul Ibanez, the next DH for the Red Sox.
Yeah, it could be something like that maybe. But yes, at the very least, it will definitely be on the Globe website. So you can read that there, along with all my other hockey musings, whether it's game recaps, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff can be over there at the Boston Globe website and boston.com. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Nothing gets the lads going quite like naming random 2000s baseball players. Like, yes. I could sit in a room with a bunch of guys and just do that, and girls obviously do that forever. I mean, I could never stop. There's so many names, and it's free. It just gets the guys going,
Shout out.
You get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Scott Pasednik.
Exactly. Coco Crisp, my man. Anyways, that's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Poke the Bear listeners, and we're sponsored by FanDuel and Factor Meals. You Poke the Bear listeners have a great rest of your week.